Hey everybody, it's episode 258 of the Marvelous Podcast. It's me, Kirsten, and I'm so excited because today I have an interview with one of my favorite people in the entire world, the lovely Michelle Gifford. We started doing this, and I'm going to introduce her again as we get going, but we started doing this thing where we're like, we have such great business conversations. Why not air these on our podcasts? So we each have a show. Last month, you can hear our conversation on her podcast, the Michelle Gifford Podcast, and today I'm bringing you a little chit chat we had about imposter syndrome. So let's just jump right into the interview because it's going to be a good one. You might want to take notes because this is our real talk behind the scenes business chit chat, and I'm so excited to share it with you. All right, let's do this. Hey guys, I'm hanging out with my BFF in business and really, quite frankly, in life. It's Michelle Gifford. She's joining us on the podcast today. You've been here once before, and I feel like it's been like 20 times, but at least once before. I think I've had you on my other shows as well, but I'm so happy you're here again with me. Welcome to my stomping ground, my good friend.
Hey, how are you? I'm glad to be here. I like to be on your stomping ground, so anytime.
Yeah.
I'm ready for you.
It's kind of, I was just telling Michelle before we started recording, so we're just going to I don't need to like prep you or prime you, right? Like we know what we're doing. We've done this so many times. This is just another day in the life of Michelle and Kirsten, right?
That's exactly right. Talking to ourselves in our own room, but together.
Exactly. My kids, the like exasperated sigh when I said, you need to go out and shut the door. I'm getting on a podcast interview. Like, I promise you guys, it's a good thing.
Oh my word.
So
it's a hard life, those kids.
It is so hard for them. So I was on your show last month, and we decided to do this early in the summer, late spring. I don't remember. We're just like, we have such good conversation about our business together. We might as well share this with other people. So if you missed the episode of me on Michelle's podcast, I can't really actually tell you what it was about because we talked about a lot of things. What was
the whole goal, it was about starting a business. And so
right.
If you're thinking about starting a business, or actually if you're just in business, you're going to want to go listen to this, because the goal behind Kirsten and I is that we are doing this business thing in real life. Like that means we're struggling along with you. And that's why we're having these conversations is, hey, you maybe need a business best friend to get through the hard times.
Exactly. And that's kind of what we are for each other. We're the anchor of the hard days, and we celebrate the big things. Like we can share our stats with each other and say, look at what's going on my business. It's really, really exciting. And you need someone like that. So until you find a business bestie, you can hang out with us, listen in on these conversations that we're going to share with you once a month. We'll do one on Michelle's and one on mine. We'll just rotate months. I think these will be some of my favorite episodes because I won't be sharing a ton of, intense business stuff on the podcast, but I think it's really valuable to hear the behind the scenes because all you really see is the finished product, but seeing how it comes together is super valuable, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, so we're going to dive today into a really, really fun topic, and I'm sure you guys have never, ever heard about this before, but hopefully we can put a really unique kind of twist and flavor on it because we've experienced this so many times and we're continuing to battle against it, and that is the dreaded imposter syndrome. Dun, dun, dun.
Wah, wah.
Perfect sound effect. We should just insert some sound effect in there for that. Oh, it's terrible. So you've never experienced it before, right? I mean, you just have full confidence, guns blazing. Every time you go into an endeavor, every time you launch a new product, it's just like fearless, right?
Yes. I mean, judging by the text I sent you, that is a bold-faced lie.
Oh my gosh. Well, when did you, from day one, have you experienced imposter syndrome? Like every single step along the way? Do you feel like that's safe to say it's been there, this like little beast looming over your shoulder from the very, very beginning?
Well, okay. So I think my imposter syndrome it shows up a little bit different. So I'm really okay with trying something new. So like my first business endeavor was like, hey, I made little girl hats, sold them on Etsy. That was 13 years ago. Like there's really no pressure in that, right? Like no one even knows about it. Like I just did it. And I think that imposter syndrome shows up for me more when I've done something well enough that I'm like, that now I'm taking the next step and owning something, right? Like I'm owning that I am suddenly an Etsy seller, or now that I'm owning that I actually did this big thing. And now I'm like, oh, wait, did I really do that?
So you have,
maybe it wasn't that great.
yeah. So you have a hard time claiming the identity as a successful person in whatever endeavor that you're doing. You're totally successful at it, and you're totally fearless while you do it, but it's after the fact when you're like, I think I'm supposed to claim some trophy somewhere and I'm not sure I'm allowed to.
Yeah, I think like the first step for me because I like experimenting on things, and so that part isn't scary because I think there's it's a low risk because I know going in that like, oh, this could be great or it could be not great. And I don't know, it doesn't reflect on me because I'm just trying something out. Mm-hmm. But once that it's successful and I'm like, okay, this is really working. Now I need to say, hey, I am the expert in this. That's when it shows up, right? When that imposter syndrome shows up, because it's suddenly, yes, I'm claiming the space. I'm putting a flag in the sand. I'm saying, hey, I'm your leader.
Yeah.
Follow me. And I think that's tricky because, when I'm doing it for myself, it's like, well, what do I have to lose? But then when you're teaching other people or when you're asking people to buy something, then everything gets piled on, right? Like, well, maybe that was maybe it was just luck that you did that. Mm-hmm. Or, who are you to say that you are the expert at this? Or what if someone tries this and their outcome isn't nearly as good as yours, right? So that's when the doubt comes in, is like, I try something new, and then I'm like, okay, now I'm ready to teach this or bring it into light into a bigger way for people who run a business. Because that's what I do, right? I teach people how to use content to make money. And so then it's like that moment when I'm about to sell something or I'm about to like put it out there into the world.
Yeah. I think that's actually probably relatable to a lot of people because there's not a whole lot of eyeballs on you when you're just testing something out on your own, right? It's like the very first time I ever tried to sell products online. There was nobody like I had to be accountable to, but the minute I think you're really tapping into something important as educators, and since, we both love a good online course and we are really, really good at creating them and really, really good at helping people, this is important for anybody listening in any industry, but especially if you're setting yourself up as an authority figure. That's a really normal fear to have because you do take a different level of responsibility when people are like, hey, I spent money to learn this thing and I want it to work for me. And that's a really, really hard gap to bridge in the very beginning because you're like, oh, I don't know, maybe I'm just a lucky one. Maybe nobody will be quite as blessed as I have been in what I do.
Well, I think that this can happen, and I think it shows up a little bit more for women who are in business who are like kind of just starting out, because I was laughing with some of my team members who like they work for me and they like it's a legitimate job, they have things they do every week, and they were like, yeah, my mom, she's an adult, but she was talking to her mom. But she's like, my mom is like, oh yeah, that's so cute, that little job you have. And she's like, no, mom, I actually like do stuff and make money. And I think that there's a little bit of, I think it happens to us to a bigger degree in a lot of ways, because maybe you're starting a business from home, or maybe you have kids and this is a side hustle or whatever. And so there are people already like lining up to say, you're not really in business. That's not a real business, right? And so sometimes it can pile on because we have to be the ones that stand up and say, hey, wait a minute. No, this is a real thing.
Yeah.
I have an LLC.
You should see my paychecks. I actually make money doing this. This is not a hobby. I don't do this for fun. I mean, it's fun, but yeah, that's a really, really good point. There are definitely a lot of people in the peanut gallery who want to kind of keep us in a category that they feel comfortable with. And we have to be ready to fight that. And I think imposter syndrome it mostly does come from within, but it's really, really important to acknowledge that there are sources and voices that are coming at you that are going to want to put you into a box and keep a specific label on you. And that's really, really hard to fight as well. It doesn't have to be a battle all the time. And there does come a point, don't you agree? Like after a little while where you're just like, no, I totally do claim this space. And in the beginning, my family was like, okay, yeah, you go make $1 million. That sounds really fun. Let us know. And then it became a little, more difficult for them to laugh at. And not that they made fun, but, they were just like, yeah, okay, we'll see, Kirsten. You say a lot of things. We'll see. And after the, we had the proof is in the pudding. It was just now they take seriously what I do, but it does take a little bit of time I remember talking to, I think it was Becky Whippy Cake, and she was saying like it's like chasing, I don't know, maybe it wasn't her, I can't remember, but I'll attribute all the best things to her. And she was like, it's like chasing an invisible rabbit that only you can see. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's totally it. And that when you're in the beginning phases, or even way later in the phases, right now, sometimes there's things I can't even explain to people because I'm the only one who can see the vision, and that's okay. But it's kind of hard when you want people to take you seriously.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's true. I really sometimes like to hear people say what they think I do because I'm like, because I'm a little bit contrary. So I'm like, okay, well, that's not true. I'm way cooler than that. So, but I think but it took a while to get to that space. And I think that the imposter syndrome, like back to the original question, was something that held me back a lot. Like, let's go back to my Etsy time. Like, I really wish that I could go back to myself and say, hey, this is awesome. And you're doing a really good job, and you're doing a really good job at your business. It's growing. And so you should just own that space and not apologize anymore. Because I think that I was really busy, like doubting myself and thinking that I wasn't enough, and apologizing that I was doing that while raising kids. You know, my husband was in medical school, and I was like, hey, I just need to pay for Christmas. And I put that limit on myself. Like, this just has to pay for Christmas. That's it. Yeah. and that's, I wish that, like, I've failed and won enough over the last 13 years that I have a lot more confidence than I did then. And I wish I could give myself that. So if you're starting a business, like, I would say that I want you to own what you're doing sooner and before you're ready, before you think your mind is there with you.
Yeah. That's really, really good advice, because your mind, it can take a little while to catch up. And I talk about the mind a lot here. I've been talking about a lot more, and I will be talking about a lot more, because I'm really, really passionate about so much success has to start in the mind first. And so I like that you even said it's kind of the fake it till you make it, but I don't even think we have to view it as faking it, because you are successful. Deciding to show up and create something and to have this side hustle or this business or this endeavor or reach for this goal is success in and of itself, because there are thousands, millions of people who won't even go that far. And so I really like that you are saying, like, claim that sooner than you're even emotionally ready to. And that really plays into what I feel like I'm trying to teach people to do, is like, see the success before you actually, maybe are recognized by other people as successful. Because the craziest thing happens when you own it, other people start to see it. And you don't want to do kind of what I feel like I did, where I was like, I just don't really get what makes me so special. I don't really understand what I'm doing. Why is it so different? I really thought everybody hustled at the level I did, and I thought everybody was creating the same type of stuff. And it took me a really long time to step back and be like, wow, what I did was actually really unique, and what I did was special, and what I have created and the amount of work I've put in is not what very many people are willing to do. And so I wish I had, like you said, owned that sooner and realized like what I was entitled to and worthy of, and kind of the role that I was meant to play, because it would have probably helped me show up even more passionately, and I would probably put more intention into everything that I did.
Yeah. And I see people, like, have you ever, this is one of my favorite things, like to see someone, like, let's say a Facebook ad, or let's say Facebook or Instagram ad, and they say, I did this many sales, or I have this many followers. And then you go back and you realize that they have, like, let's say they said, I have 20,000 followers. This has actually happened. I can tell you who this person is. Anyway, and then I go back and I was like, well, yeah, you have 6,000 on Instagram. You have like 3 on Facebook. You have 2 in a Facebook group. And you probably have some on an email list, right? Like, and not that I want you to do that, but you have these people out there who are like unashamedly saying that they are awesome, right? And when they do that, and I don't want you to be misleading like that, for sure, but like when they say that, then suddenly that confidence is drawing more people to them, and they are able to serve more and to serve in a different way than you, who are apologizing for how awesome you are. And so I think that we need to like step into it sooner and better.
Okay, so you bring up a really good point, and I want to go into this. I want to know your thoughts about this. which is why we're doing this, right? This is a real conversation. We're not just
Yeah.
positioning this for you guys to listen to. Why don't you think that it is the people who say about those go-getters, about the hustlers, about the people who are claiming it, it's those who kind of have the negative remarks to make that keep us from playing in that safe zone? And I lost my exact words I wanted to say, but I just realized like that's why we're so afraid to step up and own that, because there are going to be people out there who want to completely discredit that. Like
me. I'm sorry.
no, not even in the deceit. We definitely don't want the deceit. Don't inflate it. But even for me, like when I have success, I feel like there's been a lot of times where I'm shamed for talking about my success, but I don't know how else to continue to perpetuate it without talking about what I've already done. And there are people who want to play that down and they want to say, yeah, but you did this and this and this, or this is why. And I just feel like there's been so many times in my business where I wanted to claim that and I wanted to take ownership for it, and other people wouldn't allow me to, or I guess I gave them some of my power and I allowed them to talk me out of that. Do you think that that is something that we're doing when we're in this comparison trap and when we're in this fear-based mentality? And what do you think like somebody like me should do when in the back of my mind I'm thinking, oh, I'm trying to write this sales page and I'm saying this thing that I've done, and I know there's people out there who are going to pick it apart step by step and say, yeah, right. Like, what do I do? How do I continue to show up when I know people hate me?
Well, first of all, let's not give people who hate us more power than people who love us, right? So I think that that is a big deal. There are always going to be people who don't believe in you. There's always going to be people who have bad things to say. There's always going to be people who literally will find joy in you not finding success. And I feel like the bigger and the longer you're in this business, the more those people are going to be. And I don't want that to scare you. I don't want you to feel like that's like ominous or heavy, because what I want you to feel is the more you're into this business and the more confidence you get, the less those people matter to you. And so here's, it's so funny. So I played piano. We're going to have a little story here. So I played piano my whole life. I took piano lessons. And then I stopped when I got married. We didn't have a piano, so I didn't practice for a while. And so in my head, I didn't remember that I was a good piano player. And I think back then, so funny. I didn't realize then how many, because you're playing the piano, I didn't realize how many negative thoughts were going through my head while I was playing my piano, like in high school. Okay. So this summer I found my old piano books and I looked through them and I was like, wait a minute. I was very good.
Look at this. Look at these notes.
And I was like, what are you talking about? I played this song. Anyway, and I sat down and I started playing this song that I had memorized back then. And I could play it. And I worked on it this summer. And it was funny because I sat down at the piano and those thoughts started coming back. But I'm stronger and cooler now. And I was like, wait a minute. No, I can play the piano. And I learned that piano piece and I've been practicing, I mean, not for anything, but just because I want to be better at it. And anyway, so I'm thinking about this in like my business, right? Is that at the beginning of your business, when you're young in your business, like you kind of let those thoughts control you, so much so that I didn't push to practice the piano for like 12 years. And then I'm now a little bit older and wiser too. And I'm sitting at the piano and I can squash those thoughts because I know that my practice and my putting in the reps and showing up is not going to just bless me, but it's going to bless my family, right? We'll be able to sing for church. We'll be able to be a good example to my kids. And so now I'm at a point where I can see that the benefit of me doing this thing, which is practicing the piano, is really going to benefit a lot of people. And I think that you need to believe as a business, now we're switching back to business, come with me, follow me along. But I think that if we look at our business this way and realize that we need to fall so much in love with our products, the change that we're making to people, that voice, those voices that say, you're not good at the piano, why are you even playing this? You just made a mistake. You're probably going to keep making a mistake. You know, those are the things that I was getting when I was playing the piano, and that they don't matter because you're like, well, yeah, I made a mistake. It doesn't matter. right? And so when you're writing that sales page, I'm coming around full circle. So when you're writing that sales page, it cannot be about you. And that is the secret. The sales page cannot be about you. It has to be about how you're serving your person. And if my person comes to a sales page and I don't tell them the results I've given to my clients or the results I've given to people who've bought my course or the results that I've seen, then I am robbing them of the results, right? And so we have to take time to really master like falling in love with our product and our outcome, and then presenting it in that way. Like, I need to help this person, and I cannot help this person if I don't show them the results that I've gotten and that my clients have gotten as well.
Okay, well, that was really, really powerful. And I think these are such good things to hear over and over. And I know you've told me this probably before in conversations, and I was totally in that mud today I was in content creation mode, and I was just like, oh, am I ever going to not have these things in the back of my mind? And I was really glad we're going to talk about this topic today, because it's one thing to have imposter syndrome when you haven't even tried something yet. It's another, like you were saying, to completely claim that success. And I do agree with you, even after just this 20 minutes of talking, that I think it's harder to claim your success than it is to even show up in the first place. Because it really is. I hadn't really thought about it that way. And I think that's why, yes, it's hard to get started, but like, we don't want it to sound ominous and scary and dark. It's still so much fun and it's so rewarding, but it is a constant battle. I talk a lot about the battle for your mind, and there's good influence and there's bad influence. And anytime that ramps up, I was just talking to someone today and I was like, when the darkness and the friction gets higher and higher, a lot of us have a tendency to like pull back and say, oh, this is obviously a sign I'm not on the right track, and this is too hard and this is uncomfortable, when in truth, that's when we're about to strike gold. That's when we're about to do something super important. And there is someone and a force that does not want us to actually reach those results. And so you have to kind of, pay attention. Where's this coming from? Why do I even feel this way in the first place? What am I about to do? And why does it matter? And for me, it's literally like a daily practice of reminding myself and talking back to that voice, talking to myself and saying, no, I refuse to accept these limitations. I refuse to accept that story. I refuse to accept that narrative. I choose to make the impact I know I'm meant to make. I choose to lean into the stuff that I'm supposed to do. So that is exactly, I think, what I needed to hear, the way you phrased it. And it is crazy, isn't it? How our minds can go back into those habits, those patterns from so long ago. It's like putting on an old shirt, probably.
I
Right?
know,
From like the
that's so
8th grade,
funny.
and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm 14 again. What?
Oh. Yeah, and I think it's important to to think about what you just said about there's a power, and there's, when we feel that friction, what do we do? And I think we have two ways that we can frame it. We can frame it in, oh, it's uncomfortable, it's getting scary, turn back now, and this is a sign that I shouldn't be here. Or how I choose to choose to look at it is, like you said, this is a sign that I'm about to do something great. Because if you look at any, I've talked about the quest before, but like, if you look at any good book, right? Any, like, Harry Potter, you've got Lord of the Rings, all those things, right? If Frodo Baggins would have gone down, we talked about Harry on our podcast. Let's talk about Frodo Baggins. So if in Lord of the Rings, like, if he would have gone down a path that would have like not gotten him to the land of Mordor, dang it,
Whatever it is.
the Mount of Mordor, I can't remember. Anyway, where he's supposed to put in the ring, and if he would have gone down a path not in that direction, it would have probably been a really smooth path. It wouldn't have been where he'd been on, but there would have been no obstacles to keep him from getting there. And so I think we need to look at our life mission as like, hey, listen, if there was no opposition, there would be no story, right? Sometimes I think when I'm going through stuff and I'm like, this, I'm going to tell on stage one day.
Yeah.
Right? Because this is something that I'm like, okay, here I was against the wall, back against the wall. What am I going to choose? That's a story. That's a place where you have change happen. That's where you either get your voice magnified, or, you have a life altering moment where you're like, no, I'm really doing this. I'm really doing this. And it doesn't matter what you're putting in front of me. And so I think we have to change our thoughts about that instead of it being like a scary thing. Say, oh, I'm like, oh, thank you. Now I know that I'm supposed to continue. You big jerk.
Yeah. Thanks for pointing out, because yeah, it's true. Like I started to read a book once called The Obstacle is the Way, and I don't know why, but I didn't quite get into it as much as I wanted to.
There's
I
an
think it was a good
obstacle.
book. There was just an obstacle there. But it's so true. Like it's so funny how we get so angry and we fight against this and we think like, well, that's not fair. It should be so easy and I should feel completely confident in this moment and I should be able to own that. But when the limiting beliefs come in, when the imposter syndrome comes in, pay attention to it. Why is it there? Why does someone or something want you to feel less than what you're actually supposed to be? Probably because what you're about to do is extraordinary and you're going to help a ton of people that are going to continue that ripple effect that you've started by being brave enough to step into your space and do your thing. And this applies to a myriad of things. Business is just the one you and I love to attach to the most because we're totally, obsessed with the whole world of online business and how it works. And it's a really unique way to connect with people, but it applies to all the facets of your business. I think there's so many things we feel inspired to do, to step up to, and to do differently. Even homeschool for me, it's like, man, I got a lot of people thinking, yeah, right. Like, who are you to homeschool? And I just stuck to that conviction. And, it took some time to ease into owning it. And at first it was just like, yeah, I'm a homeschool mom. Yeah, I'm a homeschooler. And now it's like, I'm a homeschooler. And I'm so grateful this year that I can be a voice to all these people who are coming to me saying, I think I need to look into this because things are weird. And I can own that space and I can take that. And I did the same thing with like singing. I remember just feeling so weird about calling myself a singer for such a long time, or a dancer. And I totally did it every day. I was a performer, I was in musical theater, and I did it, but I just couldn't handle the title of claiming the role. And so I think that's just like an ongoing thing that we all have to work through. And eventually we can claim it. And that's where I think even more magic happens, because then we can hold our space and we can say, guess what? I can help you with this. This is my gift. This is what I have to bring.
I love it. I think maybe we should let's talk about some tips to get there. Because one of the things that I think that you brought up that I think is important is sometimes if you're feeling imposter syndrome, first, like we said, we need to call it out and call it what it is, right? And then second, I think we need to find someone to teach. When you're talking about homeschool, I think when you start teaching people about something that you like are doing, and you start like putting yourself out there and you're like, oh my gosh, I can really, first you see that you can really help. And second, you see exactly what you know. And you're like, hey, wait a minute. I know how to play the piano, or I know how to be a homeschool mom. And so it changes things when you turn it around. Don't make it about you. Like my mom says, it's not about you, Michelle. And you turn it around and you make it about someone else and how you can serve them. Then it's easier to claim that space because it's not a title of like, what's the word? Like, I'm so great. I'm the best. Look at me. But it's a title be like, I'm a teacher, so I can help you. I'm a business strategist, so I can help you with your business. I'm a mindset coach because I want to help your business grow. And it takes a focus off you and puts it actually on how you can help your client and your audience. And that changes everything. And it should put your business into perspective.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with you. And I feel like that's anytime I'm on the other side of that, because it's a polar opposite. It's me, and my worries and my thing. And how am I going to do this? And anytime I switch that into what am I here to contribute? How can I help people? It takes the pressure off and it makes it, you would think it'd be the other way around, right? Like, oh, I have to help other people. But it just kind of like, it helps me to not be so selfish. And this is what I've said to people before, like in holding back on your dreams, you are being selfish because you have something to offer that's going to help people to advance. And so, yeah, I think it would be really, really valuable. What are some of the ways that we can combat this? And what are some ways that we can show up? And that is one of them, is stepping into a space of service. That's always, always, always served. It's always served my business. It's always served to move the needle forward and to advance me, is being service-based, having that service-based mentality. It's really crazy how even something that simple can make a world of difference when you go out and you start, building something.
Yeah, absolutely. I think also we need to get really good at recognizing the thought that's happening, because usually what happens is there's like a little thought that sneaks in there.
Yep.
And then he's like, oh, this one works. And so he just puts it on replay. And so sometimes you have to do, like you said, is to say, Michelle, stop it. Kirsten, stop it. That's not true. And to say it out loud kind of like pulls you a little bit out of it. And you're like, oh, wait a minute. I was talking to myself again. I'm a little crazy. And then you can say, there is a pattern, there's a step-by-step process, but like one is you call it out, you say out loud, this is not true. And then you say, what is true is this. And so you have to go back to, this is a mindset thing, but you have to go back to like something that is absolute truth that anyone could look at and it would be true. So let's say that you have a course that you're launching and you say, no one's going to buy it. No one's going to buy it. No one would buy this, right? You have that on repeat. And then you have to say, Michelle, stop. That's not true. What's true is I am launching a course. And then what are you afraid of? Figure out what it is you're afraid of. I'm afraid of what? That no one's going to buy it, that someone will return it, that someone will think, that someone will judge me. Like figure out what the thoughts that you're having that are causing you to believe that you're not going to sell a course. Okay. Figure out those thoughts and then figure out the thought that is actually going to serve you and replace it. So I like to say, launching this course is going to be so fun. I'm going to make a lot of money. So then when you start thinking that thought, you can switch it out. So when I start thinking, no one's going to buy this course, I'm going to say, wait a minute, launching this course is going to be so fun and I'm going to make a lot of money. So you have to replace it. There's a difference in like just stopping it, but that doesn't last for me anyway, like replacing it with something better and something that is really a helpful thought that's going to serve me.
Ooh, that is so good. And you are so right. And it just reminds me of like in being on a Word doc and doing find and replace. Find all the times where I say this and replace it with this word instead.
Exactly.
Oh, that's exactly what we have to do. It's reframing. It's changing the story. And I think that's so powerful. And a lot of times we don't. We just accept this. Like you said, it's like a broken record. It's on repeat and we hear the same thing. And I hate to admit how many times that story on repeat has held me back from sharing the thing that I know I'm meant to share. I mean, how many times have I come to you and said, I think I need to like focus on mindset. I think I'm supposed to help people with mindset. And then what happens like soon after, I'm like, I just feel like there's probably more I need to do beyond that. And that's not quite enough. I mean, at least a few times over the last 12 months, right?
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, it's fine. Because I do the same thing. Like we all have, well, you got there and we all have our little pets, right? Like our little things that we don't want to, let go of, that it's like, it's really comforting to go back to that thought. And so we do, because it's harder to commit to one thing and say, I'm going to be a mindset coach and I'm going to help women in business with their mindset to make a lot of money. Like it's harder to claim that space than to do all of the things. And so we do all the things because it's scarier. Maybe harder isn't the word. It's scarier to just claim that one thing because it's this imposter syndrome. Who am I to stand up and say I'm that person? Who am I to do that?
Yeah. But it's so funny too, looking from the opposite side. And maybe this will help all of you guys listening. Think about it from the receiver's end. I'm so afraid to claim my space. I've been so afraid to say, and this is so weird to share, but this is the behind the scenes stuff, you guys. This is what we're doing. It's been so hard for me. I created a manifesting challenge. I created these mindset programs that I'm going to be launching. And why has it been so difficult for me to just own that space? Because from the receiving end, everybody who listens, everybody who partakes of my content, I'm like, I'm selling a quiz program. I'm selling this, I'm selling that, because I was so afraid to just own my space. But from a buyer, I don't want to buy from somebody who's like, you know what? I don't really know what my strongest thing is, but I have everything you could possibly need. I can teach you whatever you need to know. And I'm like, I don't know what my outcome's going to be. I honestly don't know how I can trust you to move forward if I have no idea what space you claim. And so this is just kind of an aha moment as I'm talking, because we've been working through this with me of just claiming that and saying, wow, you and I have talked about, we have a hard time focusing and owning. And I think it's cool. We've kind of stepped into our own at the same time. It's not a coincidence because we have, really great people in our corner that help us get there, AKA each other and some others. But it's, isn't it funny looking back? Like I was just sending Michelle a message yesterday where I was like, I don't really know why it took me so long and why I felt like this badge of honor in being able to do so many things. And it feels so good to let go of not having to do everything or be everything for everyone, because there's somebody out there who can teach them the other things. I'm going to teach them the thing I'm the most passionate about and have the most conviction about. And I feel like this is a whole other rabbit hole topic, but it is so relevant to the imposter syndrome. And I think that's it. I had no idea these are things were going to tie together, but that's what it was the whole time. Imposter syndrome. I'm not enough. I haven't learned enough. I haven't done enough to step into the mindset space. But then as I was working on like the, putting the things together for the manifesting program, the challenge, I was like, I've spent over $30,000 on coaches and mindset courses that have helped me to create $1 million income stream. So multi income streams, right? Like multi 6 and 7 figure income streams. So why am I, when exactly will I be qualified to teach mindset? Like how many more years do I have to do this before I own that space? Isn't that funny? Like you have to determine, and there's nobody's going to give you a certificate and say, Michelle, you are now authorized to teach people how to turn content into money because now you have this many followers, you have this big of an email list, you've been doing it for X amount of years. But we do that. We have to have these numbers assigned to when we're allowed to step in and own our space. It's so weird.
It is weird, but if this is you, let me just tell you, congratulations. You have just graduated. You have a voice diploma that says you can do it, from Michelle and Kirsten. Love us.
Amen.
I just gave you permission. Go for it.
Signed, sealed, delivered. It's yours. Take it and run.
Yours. Now I want you to sing it.
Signed, sealed,
but I really think that I'm yours. Woo! Yeah. I do think that we are, if you take a step back, everyone can relate to this, right? Like I remember still today, I have done photography for, I don't know, 10 years, 11 years. I got my camera when my son was born. Anyway, and I still, sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, I'm actually good at taking pictures.
What? I did this the other day, Michelle. What? I was taking pictures, content for like Upness and Launch and stuff. And I was like, man. And I found, I think I just shared this today. It was a memory from a photo shoot that I did a few years ago. I don't even know how many years ago. We did an Alice in Wonderland themed photo. I'm sorry to totally cut off your story, but I think I forget sometimes. And I remember that was the hardest role to own, was I'm a photographer. I felt like I had to have so many photo shoots or charge a certain amount to say I'm a professional photographer. And now I look back, I'm like, dang, I was a professional photographer. I charged a lot to take people's pictures and I did really, really good work. So yeah, continue. But it's so funny. I forget that I have that skill set.
Yeah. Well, no, I just think that's it. Like, I don't know. I was a photographer, like where that's what I did for, 5 or 6 years. And that's where I, had my side job. And even then I was like, I mean, I guess I'm good. People keep paying me a lot of money, but and then I took pictures of my kids a week ago and I was like, wait a minute. I'm like, great. What is my problem? Anyway, so I just think that because there's no one is telling you, no one gave me a dang photography diploma. I wish someone on a podcast would tell me that I'm good enough to be a photographer.
Yes. Well, yeah. And I'm really glad that you said that, because for everybody listening, this is your official permission slip to go and claim your space and be awesome. You don't need approval from anybody else, because whether people catch on now or they catch on a year from now, you have the conviction and they will catch on. It will work. I love that. Like, it will work. That's been my motto for lately, is like, there's no, what if I fail? It's like, it actually will work. It's just a matter of how long am I willing to see it through. So same with you. If you own it
absolutely,
and you claim it, it will work. What you're doing will work. Just keep showing up.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the more you show up, and this is a great thing too, is like once you commit and you say, like, I'm going to show up no matter what, you're going to have hiccups. But like, let's say you just committed today that you're like, yes, I'm going to own this space. And then you showed up every day, or, every day you're going to show up and you're going to teach or you're going to serve in some way. Over time, you become that person. You gain that confidence because you made the decision long ago to show up and to serve. And that decision helps you become the person that you are claiming to be. So even just deciding puts you light years ahead of other people who are still waffling. And
Mm.
it's also okay, because I think that one of the things that held me back is that I like to do, and I'm pretty good at like more than one thing, like you, right?
Yeah.
And so I was afraid that if I just owned one thing, then it would mean that I couldn't do other things. And there's a principle, I can't remember what it's called, but that if you will just stay in a lane and become the expert, like become the go-to person at something, one thing, then once you hit a certain threshold, then you can add other things, and people, like, it doesn't shock your audience.
Mm-hmm.
So like you think about like celebrities do this, or like master Instagrammers do this, like they're like food bloggers, and then they're food bloggers for so long, and then they like add fitness, or they add beauty supplies, or other things. And I think that this was a comforting thought for me.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes I'm like, why don't I just buy a farm and be like a farm blogger? That seems like fun.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not doing that today. But sometimes I'm like, it would be fun. I have a lot of ideas. That is part of the problem. But if I stay on my business path until I like have become that person, the content person, then it will free me up after I've actually like I've claimed the space, and then I've become that person because I've shown up, I've been on podcasts, I have done courses and all these things. Then it gives you freedom to do more things. So if you're like me and you're like, hey, I don't want to stick to one thing, there is room for more. There's room for other options, but choose one thing now so that you have options in the future.
Yes. Oh, I love that so much. And that's where, I think people are going to see extraordinary growth in your business and my business, and in us claiming that space, because once you do, it frees up so much space to create too, right? Like, and there's going to be, I think we feel this and I know we kind of went down the rabbit hole, but I know we sometimes feel like it's a limitation to just pick one thing and pick our space, when
Mhm.
really it's creating more freedom for you to offer more value to people. Because now I don't have to create a billion different things to support 5 different business funnels. I just get to create content in this one space, and my people get to completely invest with me in the growth and in the progress of this one principle. So, oh, I love it. You are such a wealth of wisdom, Michelle. You really are. I mean,
Maybe it's just because I have been home by myself for so long. No, not by myself, with my kids for so long. I'm like, hey, let's talk. I'd love to have a conversation with a grown up person.
I know. Well, this is why you need to have really good, smart people in your corner to have these conversations with. So hopefully, a little sneak peek into one of our conversations. This is like legitimately not just, like I said, for content. This is a real conversation, because these are things we talk about pretty regularly. And the fact that we've had this conversation probably a couple times just proves how needed it is to continually have somebody to reaffirm in the moments where maybe you're not even strong enough to replace the narrative. You have somebody who helps you replace it for you. And you've always been good at that. You kind of like you indulge and let me express myself, but you also don't let me wallow in it. You say, okay, great. So how are you gonna change that? And is that really what you want to do? And why do you want to do that? And so thank you for that. I love you.
I love you. This has been so great. I'm so grateful for your podcast. Kirsten is the very best, and the girl who gets me out of a lot of mindset holes, right? We have them,
Yeah.
and it's okay, and you're normal if you're feeling imposter syndrome, or if you're feeling not enough, whatever. That is normal. Welcome to the club, but don't stay there. Find a friend to get you out.
Yes.
Her name is Kirsten.
Yes, and if you guys, obviously I'm going to totally plug Michelle. If you're looking for somebody to help you turn your content into money, I don't even have to teach you any of that anymore. And I'm going to send you to the people who I trust the very most. And Michelle is a queen at taking content and making. You've inspired me to make content creation fun again, because I went through a period of time where I was like, I just don't want to do it. I don't want to be there. I don't want to
Yes.
do the thing, but that's her expertise. So go follow her on Instagram, and especially so you can make sure to hear our interview next month that will be on her show. Who knows what that's going to be about, but it's going to be good. We know it, guaranteed, right?
Absolutely.
Well, thanks for hanging out with me. You're the best. And everybody else listening, hope you gotten a lot of value and had a lot of fun with us hanging out today. Hopefully it's been coherent and you've gotten some good takeaways. And yeah, I'll see you soon, Michelle. I'll talk to you later, and we'll share more stuff with these amazing people ASAP.
Perfect. Thanks so much, you guys. You guys are the best. Thanks, Kirsten.
Yeah, you bet. Hey friends, if you want to learn more about mastering your mind, overcoming yucky things like imposter syndrome to create exactly what you're meant to create in this world, go check out my manifesting challenge. It is an amazing program that's going to help you learn the essentials to manifesting. Just head over to kirstentyrell.com/manifestingmarvelous, and I will see you there. Let's start manifesting together.